Hello everyone, Kermit the Frog here. We are down in Florida broadcasting.
Yes, Elmo needs a fan to stay cool. It's so hot in Florida.
I don't think the New Englanders will appreciate that, but we're just going over Dr. Wildman's lecture in the human condition, the Thursday right before spring break, the day before yesterday.
Dr. Wildman said that the humans are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah, Dr. Wildman thinks that we're able to do the most amazing things and also the most destructive things. He started by reminding us about Immanuel Kant's influence on modern philosophy. Many subsequent thinkers wanted to intensify Kant. Some wanted to defy him, some wanted to embrace him, and then some wanted to extend him.
Emma thinks that Schleiermacher wanted to extend Kant's thinking.
Yeah, that's right. Although that Schleiermacher reading was pretty hard to get through, wasn't it, Elmo?
Yes, but what were Kant's basic teachings that the others were reacting to?
Well, the fact that we assume that things are true, that we need to be true, even if we can't prove them, like the existence of God.
And what effect did this have on religions and moralities?
Well, theologians and ethicists started grappling with the limits of reason and the inevitability that power and lack of awareness suffuse all human activities.
That was verbatim from the slide from Dr. Wildman.
And then he showed us this blooming flower and this atom bomb on a slide, and the cycle of objectification, internalization, and externalization. Dr. Wildman says that every culture has ways to regulate things like sex, raising children, and so forth.
Yes, he talked about speeding, and since he's Australian, he talked about driving on the left side.
Yep, we make up laws internally about speeding, and then it becomes externalized, and then finally objectified, and it then becomes law. That's the social construction of reality.
And what is the psychology of cognitive error?
Well, that's humans making mistakes and misjudgments. Western psychologists have been studying this for about 120 years, but South Asians have been working on this for 2,000 or 3,000 years, based on meditation and spiritual practices. So both groups ask the question, how can human beings cultivate virtues that can make society better?
Dr. Wildman showed us a cool slide with a brain in the center and all the mistakes that we make outside.
Yeah, and all the ways we make these mistakes based on not having enough meaning or too much information or the need to act fast, not remembering the right things. Each of the mistakes listed on the slide represented experiments that have been done to prove the science behind the conclusions.
That's right, and then remind Emma, who are the masters of suspicion?
There were Ludwig Feuerbach, Karl Marx, Friedrich Nietzsche, and Sigmund Freud. All four of those were atheists, and they were suspicious of religion. Kant believed in God, but could not prove God's existence. The masters of suspicion thought God didn't exist at all.
Well, how did organized religion deal with these four atheists?
Some ignored them, but liberal religions tried to engage them, even though it was quite difficult to do so. And at the same time, scientific progress was continuing. Atheists were telling humans to focus on humanist principles instead of religious ones.
Yeah, Dr. Wildman showed us religious memes from the internet saying that God's answers to your prayers is actually confirmation bias.
Yeah, those weren't religious memes. Those were atheist memes. But Justin Barrett of Fuller Theological Seminary explained that confirmation bias is maybe a result of God making us with the type of brain that would believe in God more easily.
And what was moral foundations theory?
Well, it mentions how people value 6 different moral foundations, like care and harm, loyalty and betrayal. So conservatives value different moral foundations than liberals do.
Dr. Wildman talked about the moral value of purity.
Yep, and the conservative saying trust disgust. Dr. Wildman talked about Trump's comments about women being objected to on purity grounds, but being excused since people liked the rest of his character.
And I thought Trump's comments varied the ethic of fairness, not the ethic of purity.
Well, yeah, I agree, but we didn't have time to discuss that. So we went on to discuss genetics. Apparently what theology we choose is 50% genetic and 50% environmental.
And what about original sin?
It's not apparently present in Judaism or Islam, even though the Genesis is discussed in both religions. Dr. Wildman said that the original sin was invented by Christians to justify the existence of Jesus.
Yeah, and then Ben read a quote in class from Matthew Fox saying that Christians are more attached to St. Augustine than Jesus.
And Dr. Wellman said that Augustine thought the loss of control when a man has an orgasm becomes the delivery system for the transmission of original sin.
What is orgasm?
Elmo, I'm not sure I should answer that one. But the question Wildman raised, and I'm just going to move on, is that can cognitive error be interpreted as a kind of sin? So, for example, if we're biased to see certain things, like the picture he showed of gas prices in the middle of a plane crash, is it a sin for us not to see the plane crash?
Well, how does that relate to race?
It's possible for whites to be completely oblivious to racism, even when it's all around.
Then Dr. Wyman talked about melanin.
Yes, and historical reasons why darker skin was an adaptive trait once people were exposed to ultraviolet light in warmer climates closer to the equator. Unless you're an Inuit, in which case you get your vitamin D not from sunlight, but from seals.
Emma wonders, is race biological or socially constructed?
Well, that's a big debate, Elmo. Humans all migrated from Africa, but it wasn't until the fourth migration that the immigrants actually survived. And the genetic similarities within particular racial groups are only based on a few genes.
Race constructivists, they say that race is socially constructed.
Yep, but race realists also have arguments that race is biologically real. Dr. Wildman says that either side is oversimplifying things, and he called the keep it simple, stupid approach to comparison.
As opposed to what?
The avoid oversimplifications approach to comparison. But humans, he said, tend to oversimplify. Avoiding oversimplifications requires a high cognitive investment that most of us are unwilling to make.
Is that why humans tend to group together in racial groups and other familial groups?
Yeah, it might be. It certainly simplifies the kind of signaling that occurs between human beings, who to be afraid of, who to trust. But we have to lie to ourselves in order to justify this fear and this trust.
How do we group together?
Kinship, fictive kin like veterans who serve together, and race, who looks like us. He showed us a cartoon of a white guy standing on the back of a black shackled guy. And then the white guy gets up, and then the black guy asks for help getting up, and the white guy says, "You're a reverse racist."
Elmo has a dream. Elmo has a dream that one day the children of green puppets and the children of red puppets will sit together at the table of brotherhood.
Well, we're having children?